Is coming in thick and fast. We have the IFPs Mkhuleko Hlengwa at our Durban Studios for more reaction. Mr. Hlengwa, thank you very much indeed for your time. Let's get your initial reaction with regards to President Ramaphosa's national executive.
Well, thank you very much and good morning to you and the viewers. At the outset, the IFP would want to congratulate the newly appointed executive. We obviously may have reservations in certain areas, but this is the hand that South Africa has been dealt, and it is now incumbent on us as parliamentarians, as opposition parties, to actually hold those elected now to account, to exercise our duties and functions of oversight to the best of our ability. And this is incumbent on a functional and effective and efficient parliament. It is very clear from the outset that the president had to balance the warring factions within the ANC, and so he walked a very fine line, and that is why you saw a classical case of political musical chairs, because essentially what we have is the same cast and the same script. It is also clear that the reconfiguration that the president spoke about, whilst it may have happened, certainly did not go the whole 9 yards. If you look at the fact that the number of deputy ministers remains very, very high. But the president, of course, in his opening remarks, even last night, he did say that this is some of the configuration. So we are expecting further changes. But in the main, it is now our collective expectation as the IFP that the newly elected executive will hit the ground running and will actually be committed to the ANC's commitments that they made to the electorate, and ours is to play our part to ensure that service delivery and the improvement of lives in South Africa is realized.
Mr. Hlengwa, some of the considerations that the president took into consideration was one of them being generational mix. The other one was 50% of the cabinet being women. A step in the right direction, you think?
Well, it's important that the issue of youth representation remains top of the agenda, and secondly, that women representation continues to be prioritized. We are, of course, some of the characters in cabinet are new persons that we have not interacted with before, and so we do not know what they bring to the table. But our initial reaction really as the IFP is that this was a presidential prerogative, and
all right, it seems that I've lost audio. Do we have still audio there? All right, I think we lost audio with Mkhuleko. Mkhuleko, Hlengwa, sorry, we just lost you a bit there with regards to audio. You were saying?
Well, I'm saying, look, the president had to play these considerations to the best of his ability, ensure generational mix, and we applaud him for the representation of women. We believe it is important. It pushes back on the archaic patriarchal frontiers which continue to characterize the South African discourse. But what is important is that the work gets done. So we may have now dealt with the high-level principles of representation, but the fundamental issue is that women on the ground continue to bear the brutal brunt of gender-based violence. By violence, they have to compete with the gender pay gap in the workplace, particularly black women. It is women who are actually carrying the burdens of poverty. And so whilst all of these niceties in terms of political correctness were realized last night, the huger impact which we are really expecting to happen for women emancipation, women freedom, and women advancement is what we need to see now on the ground. So it is our expectation that the president will move beyond the rhetoric, will move beyond the cosmetic placement. What is fundamentally important is that the lives of our people needs to change. Of course, we must also address the issues insofar as Minister Pravin Gordhan is concerned, and to say that whilst the public protector may have had the adverse findings against him, which are now currently in the public domain, it is important at the same time that we respect our own country's constitutional checks and balance. And the fact that Minister Gordhan has actually gone to take the matter on review is a strength of our democracy that these systems are there. So let us allow that space to play itself out, and for the president to keep a solid eye and a keen eye on developments on that particular matter, so that he may take decisive action once that matter has been brought to a logical legal conclusion. It would therefore be reckless and irresponsible at this point in time to want to preempt the review, because that would mean we are preempting the judiciary in the work that it has to do.
You know, one of the names that jumps out of the page with regards to the appointments is Patricia de Lille. Some see it as a surprise. What's your thoughts? A good move? No pun intended.
Well, look, the president is best placed to explain that particular development, and well, all we can say is good for good, and good for Patricia de Lille. We also hope that she understands the gravity of the seriousness of the challenges confronting public works at this point in time. You will recall that even in the 5th Parliament, public works was a permanent feature of SCOPA, for example, because of some of the many issues there. But of course, the fact that the portfolio has been enlarged now to include infrastructure is very, very important, because as far as the IFP is concerned, infrastructure development is a key aspect of economic growth and economic development. But of course, we are also not ignorant to the political play that the president was pursuing last night, insofar as wanting to consolidate the ANC's gains and growth in the Western Cape. And we do know, of course, that Patricia de Lille is a thorn on the side of the DA. And so moving forward, she has got a national responsibility now not to use her political her appointment, rather, for political gains and in the pursuit of this new power play, which seeks to play itself out in the Western Cape. It is our expectation that she will conduct herself within the confines of the Constitution and put the national interest first, and not to use this position to advance the collective hopes, dreams and aspirations of the DA and good, specifically in the Western Cape, but generally in South Africa.
You know, Mr. Hlengwa, people are talking about the economy a lot this morning, and some of the key drivers of the economy are industries such as tourism, manufacturing, infrastructure. We know the president wants to raise about 1.4 trillion rand in terms of foreign investment in the next 5 years. Do you think the cluster of ministers that are involved in the economy can do that? And do you think it will invoke confidence from outside of our borders?
Well, in the main, we believe that the president has done well to bring about a level of stability within the economics cluster. If you consider the fact that Minister Patel had not made it back to Parliament, and the president used his constitutional prerogative to draw somebody outside of Parliament into the executive, is a commendable move for the sake of stability. Minister Tito Mboweni, of course, has been a breath of fresh air in the fact that he's very independent-minded, and we firmly believe that the agenda which he has insofar as SOEs are concerned is the correct one. The boldness in which he has addressed some of the issues insofar as SAA is concerned is to the IFP a credit, because we believe that these SOEs cannot continue to be a drain on the national fiscus. We cannot continue to sustain them through bailouts. We cannot throw financial solutions to non-financial problems in the way that we have. So what is important now is to present a comprehensive turnaround strategy, which must include but not be limited to exploring the possibilities of public-private partnerships insofar as these SOEs are concerned. And we believe that it would be in the national interest and would serve the country well for the president to encourage his ministers in the economic cluster to actually be innovative and to bring about new expertise, knowledge and capabilities in the bureaucrats that they're going to employ. Secondly, we need to build up the capabilities of our municipalities so that they will be in a position to be job drivers and job creators. And so the need for infrastructure development is important in that particular space. Local economic development and and small business development needs to be a key focus of this parliamentary and administrative term of government and parliament, so that we can actually be able to jumpstart the economy. The high level high-level interventions that the president is pursuing of heavy investment, whilst they may be commendable, they do not go far enough in the absence of a similar drive and a similar focus for small business development and local economic development. And so that is what we as the IFP will be expecting, so that we can actually get those 10 million people who are unemployed, particularly young people, into employment. And so the fact that Labour has been expanded with a new scope to include employment is a welcome move. Even in our own manifesto as the IFP, that is something which we had actually prioritized. And so it's good to see that the president actually has taken that on board. We wish those ministers in the economic cluster well, because on their shoulders rests the dreams of a generation who at this point in time have been hard done by the failures of past administrations.
What about the position of Deputy President? A lot has been said about that position. Prior to the announcement, there was a push by some for a female Deputy President. We know Mr. David Mabuza subjected himself to the integrity, the ANC's Integrity Commission. Do you think that bought him any points?
Well, look, there as well, it was a political power play within the ANC. But it would be disingenuous, particularly for elements within the ANC, to have called for a female deputy president where they themselves failed to elect a female deputy president at their own NASREC conference. And so before they want to draw the country into their own political power plays, they are duty-bound to actually ensure that they achieve these things internally. Of course, the fact that the deputy president, whether realistically or cosmetically, subjected himself to the Integrity Commission of the ANC is something which will play itself out in the coming days and weeks, so that we can actually see the full extent to which the ANC was actually serious about this particular matter. It is of concern, of course, that the deputy president held really the country to ransom with something which has not been fully explained in the public discourse. Because if he had been serious about this matter, he should have pursued it well before the elections, well before the swearing in. But now to seek to present himself as a messiah on the eve of swearing in is something which adds to the confusion. But what is fundamentally clear is that this was nothing short of a power play within the ANC, of course, which the president and the deputy president found themselves in a checkmate to each other. And so the favorable compromise on both their parts was to bring the deputy president back into the fold. The deputy president has not stepped up to the plate in a manner which inspires confidence, and we hope that he's going to be able to find his footing now and be able to carry the responsibilities of office in a far more inspiring way than he has in the past.
The IFP's Mkhuleko Hlengwa, we thank you very much indeed for your time as well as your perspective. Thank you. Well, in other